What to do, what to do. This is the Brothers on Books podcast, where we find great books that will give you real value and actionable steps and have fun in the process. Please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you would like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to would be greatly appreciated. Lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. For the original episodes, the OGs, please visit brothersonbooks.com. And dear listeners, please remember, if you're ever cuddled up by the fire on a dark and stormy night and you want a good drink, we at the Brothers on Books go with Encha Matcha, the best matcha for the best brothers. And now you'll get 20% off when you use our link provided in the show notes. With that said, I'm Alex Alwell, and with me as always is Jack Alwell, my brother. Jack, how you doing?
Doing quite well, Al. Any night that I get to spend with you chatting about random sci-fi books is a good night. So and Michigan made the national championship last night by beating Alabama.
That they did. That I was hoping that game was going to be talked about more. I didn't really rub it in anyone's face as much as I probably could have. My good friend who I played competitively went to Alabama, and I was just trying to say good game to him, and I think he took it a little sourly. He,
Ooh.
ju- he just disliked my message and didn't even respond. I sent the text when they were going into overtime. So it wasn't even after Michigan beat them. It was like in the middle of the game.
Uh-huh. Dang. Yeah, those Alabama folk take their football real seriously.
That they do. They take it very seriously.
So, Allie Bear, what book did you pick for our very last book of this season?
Picked the book called The Player of Games by Ian M. Banks. So this was my fiction book choice for this session. I guess we had been doing the last two seasons. We've both done each done a fiction book. Uh, I read sort of like you had read The Christmas Carol. I read this book. I guess for our listeners that don't know this, I very on the periphery was trying to develop a board game probably sometime in 2015, I think. And I got really into like game mechanics and like how you make a game. And I ended up I remember looking up like novels that deal very intensely with board games. And this is one of the books that popped up. So I read this back in I think 2015. I liked it. And I thought, what way can I alienate Jack today? I figured picking a 400-page science
Yeah.
fiction fantasy book with bizarre names in it would be, just another way I can sort of, give him some like poking and, cause him some stress in his life.
You
And
know,
I
I
think
was I
I,
was gonna ask, like, how in the world did you pick this book? Because like this book is like game theory about, and actually the last book I think it was the last book you picked, The Selfish Gene, actually had some game theory talk, and I was like, it seems like there's a theme with you, Al. You're
well, this is how I picked it. I just thought, what would cause you aggravation? And then I picked that book.
you know, a mission accomplished. Because like I was, first of all, this book was I found kind of interesting in how it's set up. It's like 400 pages, but each chapter is like 100 pages almost, or more. I think
More.
the first chapter was a setup, and like 120 pages in, I don't even know what game they're playing.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
by the end, I still don't get what the game is.
there's not okay. So
There's not one
they
game, I
they
guess.
don't. Well, there's one overarching game, and they don't really describe. So the reason I read this is because I wanted to read someone describe a game in practice for when I was like trying to make my game, and he never really does it. The game is talked about in very sort of nebulous and vague terms. So I felt like so the author didn't have to actually develop anything. and how the actual game is played to make it easier probably on him. But yeah, you are correct. The chapters are, I think chapters 1, 2, and 3 are each probably around 150 pages, and then chapter 4 is about 10 pages at the end. Uh, but
Now
yeah,
what?
it's
Go ahead.
I was just going to give a sort of a background on this. It's part of a series called The Culture, or a culture novel. So each novel is a standalone book. So I think there are about probably 10 books, but each book itself can be read alone. Like you don't need to read one book to flow into the other book. It's not like linear, but they all are based on this somewhat like utopian society, what's called the culture, and it's usually based on someone within that society that goes out of the society, out of their empire into different environments. And it's usually someone on like the fringe of the society. So in this book, it's someone that is an exceptional game player that is being, asked to go to this other society to play a board game and a competition where the entire society is based around this board game. So
And
and then like
it's more than just the society. He's got to travel like what was it, 5 years on a spaceship to go to a different planet, right?
2 years each way. Yeah.
Oh, 2 years each way. Okay.
Right. And then the actual gameplay took about a year.
Okay. Yeah, and this world, I mean, what do you think about this author and how he's describing this new world? Like you got three sexes. It seems pretty barbaric. I mean, they're chopping off different body parts depending on, what you do
So
wrong or it's like,
okay, so this is sort of an odd take, and maybe it's because I listened to too much commentary on YouTube, but tell me if you think I'm wrong. I feel like he's trying to portray in the society they come from, like a very much utopian society where there's no need for want. Everyone has everything. No one has to essentially work.
Mhm.
And then in the society that he goes to, it's portrayed as one, like a power hungry society where the people are vying for power, and two, very much money based. So like you need money to buy things. Uh, so I kind of felt like, and yet again, maybe it's because I just listened to too much like YouTube commentary. I kind of felt like he was trying to portray I guess the empire that he goes to is called Azad, or I don't know how you were pronouncing it, but
Yeah.
Azad. I felt like he was trying to portray that as like very much a capitalistic society where like you're vying for power, you're vying for money, like you want materialistic goods. That's that's kind of what gets you what you want. Uh, versus where he was coming from was very much a utopia where no one had to work, no one had to do anything, and everything was just free. Uh,
Yeah, it was kind of also, it sounded like there were like people like, I don't know if they would be considered like refugees, but it's kind of like this imperial take, like, oh, these people at the bottom, I think like the bottom of the hill, those people like property were taken or like the taxes were up, so they had to move to the outskirts of town. Um,
yeah, he definitely portrays in Azad, he definitely portrays a like sort of undesirable underclass.
yeah, yeah.
And one of the I don't know how you pronounce the guy's name, but the main character of the book is Gurgag or
Gurga, I
uh
was saying, but I'm not.
yeah. I just in my head when I'm reading it, I'm like, I just sort of see G and I'm like, all right, main character. But he had I guess this is a very futuristic book, so he had like a robot, like a sentient drone with him who had a more complicated name than him. And the drone like did went through great lengths to show Gurgag like all the despair that was in some of these underclass citizens where they're being mistreated or like in some cases raped or a lot of cases like just abused because they had no power, and how the other people in this like in the citizenry like just sort of viewed this as commonplace, where he obviously viewed this as like immoral and barbaric. Uh, and kind of as a way to like, I felt like kind of to incite him uh, to play harder in the game for victory, to show, I guess, to show the society that like, yeah, maybe things can be different. I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, they were going out of their way to show him different parts of the society. Um, hmm. Well, I mean, what do you think of like the beginning, like why he's even there to begin with? Because he's basically there because I think he tried to cheat in a game that he didn't really need to on his home planet, and then this drone was trying to blackmail him, and then he ended up getting sucked into this game. Do
Yeah, I
you
mean, I sort
is
of,
mhm.
sorry, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say, is this very long book basically just saying don't cheat? Lying never gets you anywhere, boys and girls.
So like that, I sort of felt like, yeah, in the beginning, I think the blackmail is essentially what got him to be talking to, I mean, they just refer to it as the culture, but the drone obviously set him up. Like the drone obviously wanted him to go. So he more or less blackmailed him to like talk to I guess the government. But
Mhm.
kind of the way I took it was like once he knew what the offer was, I kind of think he would have went regardless of the blackmail,
Mhm.
just because like this is what he likes to do. And
Mhm.
I don't know, like even in the first like 100 and some pages were all set up and more or less just setting up the fact that from what I could tell is that he was bored with his life, like essentially could beat everyone at anything. Like, I mean, they say like he more or less could win, like he could play like every single game. And the only people that could really consistently beat him would be specialists in like a single game, and they couldn't even always beat him. So like that would be like saying if there was some dude that was, expert at like both chess and Go, and I don't even know any other board uh like Chinese checkers, and he could like essentially be grandmasters in all three. I don't know if they're grandmasters in checkers, but I think you get the point.
Mhm.
Probably just, I don't know. I don't know. The competitive drive in me just says like you just want a challenge. Like you want to go
Mhm.
do something else. Want to go play someone, maybe better or do something different.
Mhm. 5 years is a long time to give up, though. Uh,
Yeah, but I don't
get
think
away from
they,
home.
right, but I think it's, in the context of these people, I don't think they really die.
Yeah, they might just live really, really long.
Well,
So,
so is it like really that much? Like, I don't
okay.
know.
Okay, so
Like
let's talk. Oh
okay.
God.
I guess just some like general like overview of the game. So the culture he's going to is set up, and the way they set up their government is based on how you do. Like I think it's every 6 years they have this giant like galactic tournament of this game, and how you do in the tournament dictates like where you are in society. So the better you do in the game, the higher you raise through society. So obviously there's like massive pressure to do well, because if you do better, you get promotions. If you do worse, you essentially get relegated. And the person who wins the tournament is essentially the emperor, is crowned emperor. Like winning the game makes you be crowned emperor. Um, just as like a background, like a backdrop to like what he's playing in. So everyone in this culture spends their entire life like studying and playing this game. Um, so it's highly, highly competitive. Okay. Just sorry. I felt like we needed to give some backdrop. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the game's also so there are like three sexes on the new planet. Actually, one of the females was saying, so I guess was it the like neutral sex and the females were or no, no, the neutral was like the head honcho kind of sex.
Yeah, the neutral sex was the the dominant sex.
Yeah, and they were and the one of the females was saying the minority sexes never got to have like a so I guess the first stage it was like 10 people per group, and this female was kind of saying that there'd never been like an all-female group. So basically it was very rare for minority sex to get through even the first round. So like
Well,
the fix is in, sounds like.
yeah, so I mean they clearly make it sound that not rare, it's like never happens, because what happens is that they deem the minority sexes as inferior, so the other nine players just gang up on them to immediately eliminate them. Uh to then like essentially start the game. And actually they sort of talk about that in from like Gergev's perspective, they were kind of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the government actually sort of reached out, the government of the game actually reached out and said it was bad form. Like they reprimanded the other players for ganging up on the alien. So like
Mm-hmm.
essentially make it more fair for him, which they then later in the tournament sort of regret that they didn't just knock him out immediately, because he obviously then goes on and does very well.
Mm-hmm. So if you were, it's just like a question, like, and you said you were trying to develop a game, and I kind of forgot you tried to do that. And so like what were you looking at, or like what were you trying to get? And like if you were to be competing in a new game, like how would you go about preparing for it?
Or to be competing in a new game?
Yeah, like because I was like thinking about Squid Game a lot during this book, kind of like the stages.
Sure.
And I'm not going to say I applied for Squid Game, but there may have been a couple game shows that I might have applied to recently. But I don't want to jinx it, so I'm not going to say.
Well, you know,
But
Squid Game made a reality TV show.
I watched it already.
Oh, okay.
I liked it a lot. I'd recommend it.
So
um,
when I turned that on, I thought I was watching Squid Game season two,
uh-huh.
and then it took me about a full season to realize it was a reality television show. It's like, what's going on? Why aren't these
But
people actually getting
uh-huh.
shot?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, it's
why are they all white and not
the
Korean?
the fake shot. Yeah. Why are they speaking English? So, but yeah, like for instance, like this woman on Squid Game in the I don't want to like jinx it, but one of the final games is rock paper scissors, and she and I didn't think there was any real edge to be had in rock paper scissors, but she was talking about it's been shown that men are more likely to play rock and
Rock.
scissor because there's something dominant about those objects for some reason.
So that means you should
So,
always play rock.
well, it was not always, but she was basically coming into the game like knowing there's a tendency, and obviously she doesn't know if the other people know that, but she had somehow talked about that before. So I don't, and I've never seen a study on that, but it sounded, yeah, I mean, like a stone or like a ball, like round objects. That sounds, pretty manly, and but that's interesting because that's like a cultural thing, and I feel like when Gerg was traveling to this other planet, he was having to learn the culture somewhat because it helps to have that as a backdrop for how you're playing a game potentially.
Um, yeah, I think that's a good point. He talks about how he wanted to learn the language because he felt
Mm-hmm.
like the language was seeped in the game was seeped in the language.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in the book, he even his like companion drone talks about how he was only speaking that language now, and not his like mother tongue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, I guess back to your original question of like what I was looking for. I honestly was just sort of looking for like inspiration of like maybe ideas that I could steal for not necessarily steal, but like ideas that I could kind of like, you know,
Work off of.
right, work off of. And I definitely like when I initially read this, what I was looking for was more honestly like mechanics of like how they actually worked, not just like here's some very nebulous ideas, like nothing's really explained. You know, sometimes like if you come in like third, you get to go through and it's
Right.
like, okay,
And
sure.
if you get knocked out, if you then win the next 2 rounds, then you get to re-enter.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, all right, not really what I was looking for, but uh so I know like the other one that I had read was game in a couple of the Game of Thrones books, they talked about a board game as well. And yeah, it was more or less, it sounded kind of like chess, but not really in that vein. And I remember sort of trying to take some ideas from that as well. Um,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, maybe we should read. Did you ever take game theory? You didn't take game theory in college, did you?
you know,
Yeah, you would have liked that class. Strategy.
it's,
Um,
I took Econ 101.
okay.
I ended up sleeping through a lot of it.
Okay.
I think I got a B.
Okay. Well, there was one here. So there was one quote I wrote down, kind of curious on your thoughts. It stuck out to me for not sure what reason, but it says the result is what matters, not how it's achieved.
Well, I obviously disagree with that.
Win at all costs, right, Al?
Yeah, that's why I obviously disagree with that. Uh, that was at the end, correct?
That was on page 291.
Okay.
So
Close to the end. Not
close
not
to
the
the end.
part not the part of the book I thought it was at, but
Mhm.
okay.
But I thought it was like foreshadowing of what might happen.
I guess in a way it sort of was, yeah.
The fix is in, as they say. Um,
I mean, I could envision, I guess I could envision a scenario where I would abide by that rule.
mhm,
So if I was, you know, if I was truly in Squid Game, I would play by that rule.
mhm.
Like not the reality television Squid Game, but like Squid Game, where it was like either you win or you die.
Uh-huh.
And in that case, yeah, I would play like that, of course. Like,
Uh-huh. I mean, because actually, this is something that I heard a lot at like my work. Like, I don't care how you get it done. I just need it done. Like, I feel like a lot of programmers live by this rule. I mean, it's kind of different. It's not like a moral issue. It's like, okay, we need some program to do this. We don't really care how you do it or how you set it up, but it needs to be able to do this, and you fill in the middle. So I feel like a lot of people kind of live like that, but so sometimes how the result is achieved, like morally, like in some of these situations, probably matters a little,
maybe just a little bit.
just a little. So yeah. So I don't know. And any other thoughts, Al?
I mean, do we want to like talk about, I mean, I guess do we want to talk about like what that foreshadowed? Do we feel comfortable like telling the end of the book?
Um, yeah, just go for it. Let's just yeah. I mean, if people read with us, they've read it.
I have a feeling this book doesn't capture a lot of our audience's uh interest, but okay, so the end of the book is our hero Gurgagor is playing the previous emperor, this guy Nikasar, in the final, and it's like some incredible game, blah blah blah, and then Gurgag realizes that after like days of playing that he realizes finally that he's gonna win, and I think he says the only other one that realizes he's gonna win is the emperor. So there's some like they break for a day or whatever, and then there's some like sort of like veiled like talks where the emperor says someone tried to kill him, and he imposes like martial law on the game. And then at the end of, so then they come back to play, and then instead of playing, the emperor just starts blowing stuff up and killing people. So as that's going on, the emperor tries to kill our hero, and his little drone companion ends up killing him. And then they fast forward, and this more or less eventually causes the destabilization of that emperor, that empire. So like the Empire Azad like collapses after this, like after an alien wins the game. But then the companion drone essentially had told, and sort of like you can justify it from like a couple of different ways. So from the companion drone had told the emperor that if Gurgag beat him, their society, which is called the culture, was going to come in and destroy them. So in his mind is if he doesn't win, then his like his empire is going to be either enslaved or destroyed. So I guess from his perspective, I think the win at all costs uh, mindset is justifiable. Would you say so?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in that case, I also agree. But that I think that was a bluff. Like I don't actually think that was going to happen, but I guess we'll never know.
Oh, you think it was a bluff that the culture would take over?
Yeah,
Ah,
the drone says like I have no idea if they actually would.
I
I
think
think
I kind of
they're
missed that subtlety.
right. The drone made it up. He said I think the end goal was they wanted that empire to sort of fall apart on its own, and the best way to do that was to I guess have someone outside win the game. They had been looking at Gurgag for like the entirety of his life, and they thought he could do it. So they sort of blackmailed him into doing it.
Hmm.
So it was definitely some gamesmanship from the culture, I guess.
Yeah. Dang. Okay. Okay. Well, I think we need to like put a game theory book on our list.
All right, well, I guess it's good that we're about to be choosing new books there, Jackie boy.
Yeah. So yeah, what were
Uh,
your what are you going to take away from this book, Al? How are
well,
you going to implement what you learned in this book into your life?
what I learned in this book was I enjoy. I don't think I had not read or actually read a science fiction book in many years. I'd listened to a good number of science fiction fantasy books at work, but I forgot how much I enjoyed just reading ridiculous fiction.
It's like I almost think like authors like this, there's something, there's like some dark inner core that they just want to like release to the world. Like, I don't know. That
I mean,
that's
I can't stand the names like the X stuff. I mean, one dude's name was like I don't know. It's like 15 names hyphenated
yeah.
with like weird letters. It's like, is like the purpose to, is is the purpose to make the names hard to pronounce so no one can like know who your character is? Like,
That's
I
how I felt
mean,
about like Elon Musk kid, right? So
yeah,
that
it's like, do you want to just make them like, discriminated against for his whole life? Like, I don't know, Jack, what are you taking away from this book?
I'm taking away, I think that I do think it was, he used his time wisely on the ship in preparation for these games he was about to partake in. And I think it's important to analyze things from different perspectives. And yeah, I was thinking of that woman that talked about the analysis of rock, paper, scissors, because rock, like before that, I really thought it was like totally chance. but apparently people have inclinations that you might not necessarily know. Same for Battleship. I found there was a study, I think, that said some people are more likely to put battleships in row or column C. I forgot which it is, but I mean, just like things that games that I thought had like no real edge. And there are some tendencies, if you really study, you can get small edges. It's just interesting to think about and to study. And yeah, I would like to try to analyze more games, I guess. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I'll be taking from this book.
But
But
for rock, paper, scissors, have you ever, instead of like going rock, paper, scissors, have you ever seen people do rock, paper, scissors?
you mean like, what do you mean?
So instead of like when traditionally when you hold when you're like gonna throw, so like rock, paper, scissors, like shoot,
Shoot. Yep.
you hold as a rock. But have you ever seen someone hold as like a scissors or a paper? Like they go rock, paper, scissors, shoot, and then like flip to whatever it is they're doing.
That's
'Cause
interesting.
I've had someone do that to me. It kind of throws you.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. And then there was that game we used to play at camp where you'd like tap twice and then like reload
Reload,
or
yeah,
block or
block.
shoot. Yeah, there's some very kid-like games that have some strategy. So
Yeah, it's true.
so hopefully we both get on Survivor one day or whatever game show and you know, brush up on
Well,
our game theory.
I would tell you if I was going to be on 100%, if I was going to be on a Squid Game, I would buy all those like bread tin things and practice carving those things out.
You mean the honey comb cookie
Yeah,
thing? Yeah.
whatever it is, the
Yeah,
little
yeah.
cracker. I would practice that day in, day out until I could do them all easy mode.
hmm Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna make it that easy. I don't know if they'll do it a third time in a row. We'll see.
But they'll probably do some shape.
You think? Maybe. I mean, they
Ah,
didn't repeat all the games. Did you watch the whole thing or just the first couple
no.
of
I
episodes?
think I only got this episode 5.
Okay. Yeah, because the first couple stages were the same, but then they switched it up. Because I think
Okay.
they were about to pick group. They said to form groups of 10, I think, and everyone thought it was going to be tug of war because that was the order of the original show, but then it ended up not being. So it seemed like a lot of people were trying to pick teams based off of strength, but they were kind of optimizing for the wrong attribute. Because I
Okay.
think that, well, I don't want to ruin it, but it was a different game. Um,
Wait, wasn't that Battleship?
that was okay. Now you
Oh,
ruined it for people, Al.
oh. I mean, that show came out like, I'm talking like 3 months ago. Like, if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it.
Fine, fine. Um, but yeah, that was a good. I'm a big fan of Squid Game, so yeah, it's about all I got, Al.
That's all I got too. You want to take a subject?
Yeah, let's do it. So, with that said, please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you'd like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to this would be greatly appreciated. If you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. For the original episodes, the OGs, please visit brothersonbooks.com. Don't forget to see that link below for 20% off your matcha needs at Encha Matcha. And once again, I'm Jack Allwile, and with me, as always, is Alex Allwile. Until next time. Oh, so what are we doing next time?
I think next time is the book draft, isn't it?
That's right. We got a whole new lineup of books. So all of the listeners, all of our friends can read along with us. And you know, once again, the invitation is open. If anyone wants to come on and discuss with us, we are happy to have you. Okay. Until next time, Al.
Till next time.